David Zucker.
Am I on here? I am on? Okay. Good morning, everyone. If I could have your attention. Good morning. My name is Gloria Spedafino-Gali. I'm the Executive Director of At Home on the Sound and a proud member of the board of the local summit. We are going to have a talk today on emergency preparedness. So fires, flood, extreme hot, extreme cold, events that can strike us really without warning. And we're very lucky today because we have county and local officials here. We have Susan Spear, the Commissioner of the Westchester County Department of Emergency Services, and Chief Richard Valentine of the Village of Larchmont Fire Department. Thank you so much for joining us. A quick reminder, today is election day, so if you have not voted, please make sure to get out and vote. Elaine Chapnick is the president of this board, and she is unable to be here today, so she has asked me to speak for her, which I'm very honored to do, as always. So we usually start with announcements from local organizations. If anyone has anything they'd like to announce, I'm going to switch my hat back to At Home on the Sound to let you all know that we are in preparation for our annual spring gala. It is celebrating 15 years of service and will be held on May 15th at Mamaroneck Beach and Yacht Club. You can buy tickets and sponsorships on our special pre-sale that we're having now. And if you have any questions, of course, you can come and see me always. Is there anyone from any other local organizations that would like to say something? Sure.
I just wanted to say, hi, my name is Michelle Galanter. I'm here representing Congressman George Latimer. He's in D.C. He wasn't able to come, but he asked me to come and to say hello and to report back. So it's nice to see you all, and thank you for having me.
Thank you. Mr. Zucker.
Good morning, everybody. My name is David Zucker. I am the Westchester Community Engagement Manager for the Alzheimer's Association Hudson Valley chapter. So it's my job to go out into the community and talk to as many people as possible about the wonderful programs and services that we offer. I'm also a proud board member of At Home on the Sound.
Yeah, you are. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, we're going to jump right in. I'm going to start with introductions. Commissioner, would you like to start?
Thank you so much, Gloria. I really appreciate the invitation here, and it's an honor to be here with Chief Valentine, fifth generation firefighter, so that's something really to be proud of. So, and I just want to take a minute to thank you so much to the local summit for what you're doing. Having a constructive dialogue about issues that are important to your community just could not be more important right now. So really hats off to you, and I hope that you're a model for other communities in the area, because it's just really important to have constructive dialogue with community members. So Susan Spear, Westchester County Department of Emergency Services, and I look forward to our discussion.
Thank you. Chief?
Good morning, everybody. My name is Richie Valentine. I'm the Chief of the Larchmont Fire Department. And again, to echo Commissioner Spear, thank you for having me here today. I'm looking forward to a fruitful discussion with you all. So if you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer them. Is this better?
The microphones are for LMC, so you need to project a little bit, please.
Is this better? There we go. Okay. Terrific. So yes, I'm looking forward to a very fruitful discussion today. If you have any questions, we'd love to try and answer them for you. I know that we have some questions here that was already brought to our attention, so we'll have some dialogue that will hopefully hit home for you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to jump right in. Commissioner, can you explain a little bit about what your office does and the type of emergencies that you're responsible for handling?
Sure. So we have 4 divisions in the County Department of Emergency Services: fire, EMS, communications, and emergency management. So the fire division manages the training center for career, volunteer, and combination fire departments. We train everybody from entry level all the way up to fire officers, and we do specialty classes as well. We also have the Swiftwater Rescue Team, the Tech Rescue Team. These are the guys that you see when there's flooding, pulling the rafts up to people's houses. That's under the Department of Emergency Services. We have the hazmat teams under the Department of Emergency Services. You may have been hearing about lithium-ion batteries and the fires that they cause. Our team manages that program for the county. We also do fire and emergency preparedness education, public education through the fire division. The EMS division also does training for EMS. We have classes in CPR, AED, and Stop the Bleed. We recently did a class for the visually impaired on Stop the Bleed, which was a really interesting program because we taught visually impaired people how to help themselves or family members if they are severely injured, and was something we hope to replicate for other types of disabilities. Our communications division does emergency 911 dispatch for fire and EMS, so we dispatch the chief here when necessary, and we also manage the communication system for emergency dispatch. And last but certainly not least is our emergency management division. We manage the emergency operations center for the county. So the theory behind that is that you bring a representative from all the departments together during an emergency to be able to make quick decisions because everybody has real-time information. So during COVID, our emergency operations center was open for an extended period. We had the health department there, we had DPW, we had the parks department, we had the budget department, we had all the departments that need to be involved in making a decision so that everybody can be together and make really quick decisions on a moment's notice. And that's what we do.
Thank you. Thank you. That's a lot.
What?
Fantastic. Chief, as head of the Larchmont Fire Department, how do you coordinate and work together with the town of Mamaroneck and the village of Mamaroneck to respond to emergencies?
So a lot of what we do is based upon geographical areas. So our response area is defined well in advance, and what we respond to will generally dictate for the village of Larchmont in our 1 square mile. The town of Mamaroneck has theirs, the village of Mamaroneck has theirs, so on and so forth. What Larchmont is a part of, along with just about, I believe, every other Westchester County Fire Department, is the mutual aid plan. And under that plan, when a circumstance arises where either you need more manpower, more resources, we can go ahead and implement that plan. And that will essentially bring in resources from nearby communities to help mitigate the emergency. There's a couple different ways of looking at it. So in some of our higher hazard areas, such as schools, places of worship, where there's generally going to be a large amount of people, we don't want any emergency obviously to happen, but if one was to happen, we have something called automatic aid. So that is the moment that we are notified of an emergency, we have departments coming in to assist us without even asking. It's just an automatic plan. Then the mutual aid part is once we're on scene and we determine after we size up the situation, if we need additional resources, we can then call for them. And the same goes for them. So if they have an emergency that they need, they can call us. So it's a mutually beneficial plan.
Excellent. Thank you. Commissioner, how would you say that the area risks have evolved over the years, given the climate change, the technologies? Like, do we have to worry about wildfires here, in Westchester County? What do you see coming down the pike?
Sure, thank you for that. So, I don't think it's any secret that storms have become more severe and more frequent. So obviously you guys are very well aware of that situation. I think that's probably going to continue when we watch the sea level rise in this area. That has a direct impact on the Long Island Sound and the Hudson River, thereby further increasing the severity of local storms. Even though our predictability capabilities have gotten more sophisticated, the storms have gotten less predictable. So I feel like they're really offsetting each other. As for California wildfires, I don't think we could have anything as severe as that in this vicinity. We just don't have the intensity of the winds and drought like they have there. And we do have our droughts, but not like California. But, I don't mean for that to be a statement of complacency. We certainly have a lot of wooded areas right up to residential neighborhoods. So that is a concern. And, we train for that. I'll let the chief speak about, his operations, but we do train for that, and we do try to do as much public education as possible around that.
Great, thank you. Chief, so we all think about flooding, right? But what do the statistics show about other local threats that maybe we don't think about? What are we not prepared for that maybe we should be a little more prepared for?
So some of what we do is we play the what if game. We sit and we say, what if this happens? What if that happens? And that's what we're tasked with doing. So we're always looking at the forefront of what's the next danger coming down the line. Some of you may be already well versed in this, but like Commissioner Spear said, we do have the lithium ion problem. So when it comes to lithium ions, remember the last time you went on a plane, you probably heard, if you drop your cell phone, please ring your call bell and we'll have a flight attendant come and get your phone. One of the reasons behind that is they don't want you to accidentally crush your phone, because it's that initial impact that could then lead to thermal runaway on your phone, which causes that, for lack of a better term, spectacular explosion.
Wow.
So while the phone is very safe, and don't take my words the other way, a phone is very safe, there is ways that you could damage it, which could lead to a bigger problem. So part of what we do is we try and figure out, okay, if this was to happen, how do we mitigate this? And then also through community education, we tell you the reasons of what you should and should not do. So we have that, and as part of the fire department, dated back in America back in 1679, back in Boston, and then probably more well known as the 1736 with Benjamin Franklin down in Philadelphia. So we've had a fire department in North America for quite some time. That nomenclature has kind of gone to the wayside, if you ask me. We're no longer a fire department. We are an all hazards department. When you call 911, you're going to get a fire department, police department, EMS department, among other types of departments, but we are tasked with handling just about any emergency that can come your way. And we're not just fires, we're car accidents, we're chemical emergencies, we're hazardous materials, we have the swift water. Any type of emergency that you need mitigation for, if we're not the right people, we know exactly the people to call. And so that's kind of what we're looking at in terms of the 10,000-foot view of what's going on here. It's what is the next thing that we need to prepare for.
Excellent, thank you. Commissioner, what did your office learn from Ida? So how are you preparing to respond to flooding just in general? How would you prepare for that?
Thank you. Great question. And, I do just want to emphasize the point the chief just made about fire departments being all hazards department. That is really true. They have really evolved over the years. So what did we learn from Ida? Lots of things. I think we learned that we need to do more public education about preparedness and prevention and mitigation. We learned the importance of collaborating at all levels of government. We have always had a really excellent relationship with our state partners and our federal partners, but I think the aftermath of Ida really taught us how valuable having those partnerships before the incident really turned out to be when the incident occurred, and we needed an all level of government response. So, yeah.
Excellent, thank you so much. Chief, so we serve certain populations in our communities. So what should older adults in particular think about when they're thinking about emergency preparedness? And what are the new adaptive technologies that may be able to help and are user friendly?
Sure. So some of the new adaptive technologies, everyone's familiar with a smoke alarm or a carbon monoxide alarm. Well, that doesn't really do a lot of good if you're hard of hearing, or maybe you take medications that kind of knock you out a little bit more than the average person. So there are products that are on the market commercially available today, such as pillow and bed shakers that hook up to your already existing smoke alarm system. They listen for that audible beep. For those that are visually impaired, they have ones that emit a bright light, and then basically it would get your attention to say, hey, there's an emergency going on in your home. So those are commercially available. There's a couple different brands. There's BRK, First Alert, Kidda, and those can be found a couple different websites. The National Fire Protection Agency, Protection Association, also known as the NFPA. Some of the places that they will direct you to would be lifetonesafety.com, awake.com and silentcall.com. So those 3 websites are ones that you could go and also explore it on your own. But those are some of the new things that are on the market. And again, I wouldn't be hard pressed to say a year from now there's going to be even more.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you. That's good information for all of us. Thank you. Commissioner, what is your role in conjunction with the municipal, state, and even federal relief? And do you see any changes now that we have a new administration? Well, I had to ask.
May I just take a deep breath and sigh, or do you want me to use
very well, you can.
Or do you want me to use words?
The floor is yours.
All right, use words? Okay. So let me just start with that quickly. We've heard some comments from the new administration about FEMA. We have a great relationship with FEMA. We have for a long time. They're tremendous partners. Do I wish there was less paperwork and process involved? Yes, I do. However, they play an absolutely essential role. Certainly there's some bureaucracy that could be reviewed. However, their importance, they do things that you can't do as a local community. To use other examples or analogies, you can't build a bridge over the Hudson River. You can't build 287-95. You need the federal government to do that. Same with FEMA. You have an emergency like Ida, you can't handle that as a village or a town. You need the federal government. We need their funds, we need their support. We need, to some degree, that bureaucracy, maybe not as much of it as we get, but we need them. So the federal government, as you know, FEMA provides tremendous funding to us. The state administers that funding. We as a county work with the state and the local municipalities to submit applications for that funding and guide those applications through the process. And of course, local communities are deeply involved in the residential response as well.
Great, thank you. Chief, so we spoke about the older population and what they could do, but we're part of the local summit. We're here for the whole community. So what about families with small children? So what can they do to become a little bit more prepared?
So children are resilient. They're smart and they thrive on information. They pick up on social cues and emotional cues from you as the parent or guardian. And it's just amazing to see them capture that information. I'm reminded of a 3rd grade fire station visit that I took. And I can still remember to this day arriving at the fire station, and we had 2 firefighters. They showed us around, they showed us the apparatus, and they taught us stop, drop, and roll. Now, just by a show of hands, how many people remember stop, drop, and roll? Okay. In August, I'll have 20 years in the fire service, and I have never responded to a call that stop, drop, and roll was part of what happened.
It is funny how little I've used stop,
Yes.
drop, and roll in my life.
It is fantastic information. If your clothes are on fire, we do want you to stop, drop, and roll. Please do so. But what we've learned over the past, I'd say, decade or so is that children need more than that. And what they learn at a young age, they carry throughout their adulthood. And so we now have fire and life safety educators, where we will send them to schools to learn different age groups and how to teach to them, as young as 2 years old up through the adult learner. And those fire and life safety educators really hone in on a few things. And one of the big things is obviously knowing more than one way out of wherever you are. That is of the utmost importance. And then also, once you are out of a building or the imminent danger, stay out of that building. Right. The last thing, and unfortunately I was part of a few scenes where people did make it out successfully and then went back in for one reason or another, and they either got hurt or worse. And that's something that we just, it's a detriment because that information, we want you to get out, have a safe meeting place outside, and just practice that because we want you to be safe. And it's more than just Fire Prevention Week in October. It is year-round safety, right? We want you to practice this with the children. They look for structure, they look for repetitiveness, and if you can just keep going more and more with them, even just once a month, that will pay dividends should an emergency arise for them.
Absolutely. Consistency really is the key there, and to keep going over and over again with them. Commissioner, we talk about no decisions while emergencies are actually unfolding. So can you explain a little bit about family planning for emergency preparedness?
Sure, thank you. I think that's exactly the right way to think about it. While an emergency is unfolding, you don't want to have to start thinking about the things you want to bring with you if you need to evacuate. So, what we always recommend, have a go bag ready, so you don't have to start packing it as the emergency is unfolding. Some things to think about. Use your phone as such an important tool, right? Take pictures of your pets. Take pictures of your family members. In case your pet gets separated or your family member gets separated, you'll have those pictures. Take pictures of documents that are important to you, or medicine bottles or prescriptions. Take pictures of all that so you'll have it. Make sure you have a charger that is battery operated, not just an electric charger. All those things are really important. Have an evacuation plan with your family. Have a text chain with your family. Set that up before an emergency is unfolding. So, in a very localized emergency, like your house on fire, have a place to meet. So everybody, no matter what age in your household, knows, meet at the big tree in the front yard. If it's a more community-wide emergency, have a place to meet that is known to all your family members, like a school or a grocery store. And just make sure that everybody is well-versed and knows the plan at all times before the emergency, don't make the plan while the emergency is unfolding.
Absolutely, thank you. And again, it's consistency, right? I have 2 teenagers and I tell them things and then I have to tell them 72 more times. So consistency and repetitiveness go a long way to being safe. Commissioner, what's your single most important tip? What's your number 1 tip for our audience today?
It's going to be probably, echoing the sentiments of Commissioner Spear here. It's preparation. And unfortunately, my analogy is a little off today, but we want you to prepare on a blue sky day so that on the gray sky days, you can execute the plan. Plans take time, right? It takes time to actually think them out thoroughly, know all the variables, and no one at this table, no one anywhere knows everything. They never will, but what you can do is prepare yourself ahead of time to the best of your ability, and it takes time. The resources are out there. I'm one of the resources, Commissioner Spears is one of the resources, and we have lots of people that work for us and with us to help get that message out, but just slow down, take the time, analyze, and really just, everyone goes home safe.
Excellent, thank you. Commissioner, what do you think, and I'll ask this question of both of you, I'll ask the next 2 questions of both of you. What do you think are the most common mistakes that people make when they're preparing their homes for a natural disaster?
I would say not preparing sufficiently ahead of time. So not really thinking through what you'll need before the emergency unfolds. And the second thing I think is just to really pay attention to the information from local first responders. If somebody from the chief's department comes knocking on your door, tells you to evacuate, evacuate. I mean, don't be the one that causes a firefighter or an EMS worker to get hurt, right? Listen to the instructions. They're the experts.
Great. Chief, what's your common mistake that you see among families when we're talking about emergency preparedness?
It's actually going to probably be on the opposite side of the emergency. It's how long it actually does take for restoration to occur. So things do not happen instantaneously, in particular power. When a large-scale emergency happens like Ida, we lose power. And it takes time for Con Edison to get things back in order. And believe me, they are working very, very hard and diligently to do so, but there's a very methodical process that they have to follow. And depending on where you are geographically, you may not have restoration, whereas somebody just down the street does. So one of the things that you can look for is, and I do not work for a generator company, but perhaps invest in a generator with a standby generator with an automatic transfer switch, so you don't have to even think about it. When you lose power, it switches over, it's installed ahead of time. It's installed properly, so you don't have to worry about the carbon monoxide emergencies by having a generator too close to your building or to a window. And again, it's all that time and preparation ahead of time. But really just remember, it takes time to restore things. And after a large scale storm, we see a lot of people trying to go out and assess the damage, or maybe they get a little stir crazy and they're walking around. Please be very mindful of the caution tape. It is there for a reason, and it's usually masking hazards you don't see. It's very difficult to see a power line down. In the fire service, we treat every power line as if it's energized, regardless if it is or not, because we're not electricians. We see a hazard, a potential hazard, and we want to cordon off an area that's appropriate. So while you may not see anything, it really is doing its job. So, if not necessarily speaking directly to the individuals in this room, but if you see somebody else as well, tell them, hey, don't cross the yellow line. It's there for a reason.
Absolutely. And as a layperson, when you see your neighbor's power go back on and you're still in the dark, it can be a little frustrating, but we need to be a little more patient. They're working on it, so that's good advice for all of us. So, okay, Commissioner, what keeps you up at night?
You mean besides having to talk in front of this audience? I'll say two things. One is a cybersecurity attack. So we talk a lot about natural hazards and natural emergencies, but there's also the humankind. And so the cybersecurity attack, because I think, we're so reliant on our communications and our network connectivity that if that goes down, I think we're all in a lot of trouble. But just not to scare you too much, our department is working on what they call COOP planning, which is continuity of operations planning, where we work with all the county departments to make sure that they have assessed their capabilities and how they would respond if their connectivity went down. So that is in process. And the second thing I'll just say is an active shooter in a school or a hostile event. That definitely keeps me up at night. And on that note, the county does have a threat assessment team that is very active. It's a collaboration of several departments: police, fire, EMS, mental health, school districts, BOCES. We all collaborate on assessing individual and larger scale threats, so we're all aware of what could potentially be coming down the pike, and having the ability to try to prevent that from happening. And we also put together a rescue task force. When the police go into a situation, they're there to prevent more shooting. However, what that means is we have victims who need other services. So what we have done is work with police, fire, and EMS to make sure that police and EMS go in fire and EMS go in right behind the police to treat any victims who may need it and bring them out of a situation, so we don't have a Uvalde type situation where victims bleed out. But we have our EMS and fire going in right behind the police to treat victims, triage, and bring them out.
Excellent, thank you. And I sit on the school board for the Rhinebeck School District, so I am well versed, unfortunately, in the school shooters and in the drills that the children have to do. And we are very lucky, all the school districts in this area, to have such wonderful municipality leaders who really work in conjunction day in and day out to make sure that our children are safe. So thank you both really for that. So last question before we take questions. So we talked about different types of mechanisms that you can buy or keep or have in your house. Is there a shelf life to that? I know we need to sort of change our batteries, but maybe we could talk a little bit about making sure that we're up to date on those type things.
Sure. So there's not a one-size-fits-all answer to this, but a general good concept is 10 years for a lot of these life safety devices. I believe it was a few years ago that legislation came out where you are no longer able to purchase 9-volt battery smoke detectors or carbon monoxide detectors. They're either going to be the 10-year sealed kind, where you don't need to change the batteries, or a combination of such where you can also plug them into your home power. There is a shelf life to those, and those are 10 years and no older than 10 years. And the reason for that is that there is a mechanism inside that unit that goes bad. So even though you can press the button, you can hear that audible device go off. It says, oh, okay, I'm reassured that it's working. Well, it very well may not be. It could be a false sense of security. So really 10 years, and on every piece of life safety equipment, you will have a manufacturer's date. If you don't see that date, chances are it's older than 10 years. So I would encourage you to go ahead and replace those. But really, other than that, you would have to look at a couple different sites, either the ready.gov for your go bags. There are some things that do go bad, but generally speaking, a decade is the time frame that we would use.
Great, excellent. Okay, I think at this time, Penny, we're going to open it up. If I could just steal this mic, we're going to have to just really project because we're going to give the mic over here.
Just one comment I wanted to make regarding FEMA. All of our flood insurance is back underwritten. That goes away, goes with the flood zone.
You're going to have to just talk a little bit louder.
Okay. FEMA also underwrites our flood zone. FEMA also underwrites our flood insurance. When FEMA goes away, we're all in trouble.
I actually don't have a question. I just wanted to have a shout out to the fire department, certainly for Richie Valentine sitting here, because without him, we couldn't stay in Larchmont. So thank you.
Hi, thank you for coming this morning. You speak of FEMA, and we're all aware that the viability of FEMA right now seems to be in question. I know that everybody looks at FEMA as a potential funding source in a disaster situation. I'm curious, as a practical matter, what additional support FEMA does in the way of boots on the ground and strategy in life in a circumstance of a disaster like Ida, which isn't replaceable in the absence of FEMA. Can you speak to that?
Sure. So FEMA does a lot beyond just providing funding, right? So beyond disasters, they do a lot of training, public education materials, which we really rely on. In addition, when there's a disaster and a federal declaration is initiated, they put boots on the ground in terms of helping individuals apply for assistance for replacement of home items. They provide cleaning items. So you may remember there was a setup in the village hall that they were, and in the library, where they were there assisting individuals. So they have basically two programs. They have a public assistance program, which provides support for municipal infrastructure, and an individual assistance, which provides assistance for residents. So both of those programs kick in when a federal disaster is declared, and both of those programs were in effect for Ida and other storms in this vicinity. And they're not perfect, but they do provide essential assistance when needed.
Excellent. Questions?
Again, thank you for being here, and I'm feeling very more comfortable about your keeping us safe. Thank you. My question is, in case of people who have disabilities or difficulty actually with mobility, what plans are there in evacuation when they're in stressful situations?
That's a great question. So for those that have either an intermittent or more in particular, a long-term disability, it would be best to reach out to your local fire department ahead of time, or police department, and we call it 60 Control, which is our dispatching center. We can put into the CAD system, which is basically a large computer database that alerts us to where the emergency is, and there is critical incident information that is segregated into each property. So let's say that you are confined to a wheelchair or either bedridden, and your bedroom's on the second floor, and that's just where you're going to be. That information can be transpired to us, again, in a blue sky day. We put it into the computer, and so as we're en route to your address, the dispatching center can let us know, hey, there very well could be somebody on the second floor that's bedridden that's going to need assistance to evacuate that house. So that's more of the acute nature of an emergency, let's say a house fire or something along those lines. In the large scale capacity, we could be working with the county and sometimes the state to bring in additional resources, some accessible vans if needed, if we needed to get you from point A to point B. Especially with hurricanes, we have a few days' time, we could go ahead and strategically place those resources in our area to get you to where you need to be safely.
Thank you again. The question I have really comes out of personal experience. I happen to live in an area where maybe every other month we have a visit from the fire department. And I just wondered, since budgets are always not what they should be, whether there's a way to regulate what's needed for each situation. Because if you don't have to send 2 fire trucks and accompanying vehicles, and for what turns out to be not a major issue, plus all the volunteers that have to gather, is there a way to save money and save energy?
So that's a terrific question. So a lot of that comes from information from the call taker. So as an example, let's say that your smoke detector goes off and nobody's home. That information, if you have a central alarm company, will just take that information, let us know as the fire department that there is a smoke detector going off or something of that nature. The analogy that I would like to play here would be, imagine a sports team, an NFL team. Not every day is game day, but we have to be ready for game day every single time. And we utilize the information that we're given to the best of our ability. So if we get a automatic fire alarm, we have to assume that that house is on fire because that's what that is telling us. If additional information comes in so that you're home and you let us know it's steam from a shower and you're able to communicate that to the dispatching agency, we will pare down our response accordingly. We will still visit you because it is we're still liable to a point where we have to make sure that it is what it is. But with that being said, we want to make sure that we send the appropriate resources because every day very well could be game day for that, and we need to make sure that we're prepared for that.
Could there be some instructions to the homeowner or to the service you're using in terms of questions to ask?
Yeah, so the dispatching agency, if you're the one calling, they have a set amount of directions that they'll ask. But if it's just an automatic fire alarm, all it is, it could be anywhere in the world. They see this information come in, they're just letting them know, hey, this is going off. What I can say, and this is actually a blessing in disguise, is in Larchmont we are centrally located, right in the center of Larchmont. We can pretty much get anywhere in the village in less than 3 minutes. When your fire alarm goes off, that 3 minutes starts. We're already getting our wheels in motion, and chances are we're going to beat you to the front door. On several occasions, we're able to do that, and so I take pride in that, and we want to make sure that our response time is limited. But with that being said, we do our best to maintain within that.
Absolutely. And if you're coming to my house, you bring everybody. Just bring everybody, just in case. Just bring them all. We want everybody there to help us. Thank you.
Can I just add 2 quick points to that? The fire department isn't always going to know what's happening at a scene. So they need to better to send more and turn them back than need them and not have them there. Because especially if somebody calls 911, we do have a set series of questions. We ask them to try to get as much information for the fire department as possible. But sometimes people hang up. They call, they give the address, they maybe go through 1 or 2 questions and then they hang up. So the fire department or EMS might not have all the information they really need to assess a scene. Better to get them there. If they need to turn around, they can turn around.
Thank you.
What? Never needed it. You're talking about all these reactions, and we're very reactive, but we're not proactive. Half of the county runs along water. What have we done to prevent the flooding or whatever else? And the second part of that is a lot of the county, it's easy where my son lives, the trees always fall down because everything's on rock and all that stuff. In Long Beach, Long Island, over 50 years ago, They said, we're along the water. When there's a storm, our electricity is going to go out because all the poles are above ground. And they put everything below ground. So the question is, what departments or who's doing what? So there's two parts to the question. So that we have some proactive solutions rather than saying, call us up if there's a fire or if your house starts to flood. It needs to have an involvement, which seems to be ignored. That's what happened in California. They knew there was a problem. The second part of it, which relates back to the first, is there an actual evacuation plan? I don't know it, okay? I live in an area where it probably will flood. Is there something that every resident, okay, older residents so it's easy, younger residents so they can understand it, so that they can do something and know what to do, just like stop, drop, roll, or whatever. They know, go here where the ground is high, or go here. So there's a lot of elements to this question, so I don't know if you're going to be able to break it down, but that's the basics. And thank you. I'm sorry that the question was a little
Middle Eastern food.
Well, let me take one of the first aspects of your question regarding preparation beforehand rather than response at the back end. So we do a tremendous amount of preparedness and mitigation work. It may not be as visible, but we are doing it, and we actually work with the state and with FEMA to have a hazard mitigation plan. The county developed the plan in partnership with every municipality, all 5 municipalities, Mamaroneck and Larchmont, Village Town of Mamaroneck and Larchmont were very active participants. And there are actually, I just looked it up before I came here, there are actually 50 pages of mitigation activities for Mamaroneck and 38 for Larchmont, maybe I have that backwards. But so what we did was we talked with every municipality about the priorities. We assessed what types of emergencies might they face, whether they be flooding, storms, fires, cyber attacks, etc. And we prioritized each one for each community, and then each community was responsible for developing a series of projects that might help mitigate those priority incidents. And that is actually a prerequisite for eligibility for federal and state grants to support those mitigation projects. So it's full circle, right? You do the planning, you create the projects, and then that gives you the opportunity to apply for federal funds to fund those projects and actually put them to work in the community. So it is happening. I know it's not as visible as maybe it should be, but your communities have been tremendous partners with the state and the county in terms of developing mitigation plans. They're long-term though, I just want to say that. You know, they're not going to happen overnight. Most of these are big construction projects, you know, like the Mamaroneck Sheldrake project, been going on for, I don't know, decades, as long as I can remember. But, you know, it's making, you know, glacial progress. It is happening, but it's not as fast as anyone here certainly would like. Another
Take another question.
Oh, sorry.
I think I can speak for that. I too am gratified to have you here and feel reassured. Thank you, all of you. Two-part, very different question. One is, I've seen that you're supposed to have a fire extinguisher on every floor of your house, every level. I haven't bought a fire extinguisher in years. And is there anything I should know about in going to buy fire extinguishers and using them is one part. And the second part, very different, is, you know, and I apologize because this is probably so obvious, but still, I'm going to ask it, is that, you know, in every school shooting case, it seems like the kid has been in some way transmitting, you know, messages that people could have picked up on. And I'm just wondering if, you know, how much is that message being transmitted both to, I mean, everybody in the community, teachers obviously, school people obviously, but also to everybody in the community that, you know, to reach out, to alert somebody in a situation where you have concerns about a child.
So fire extinguishers, right in my wheelhouse, so thank you. So yes, there are many different types of fire extinguishers that are on the market. The ones that I would suggest to you all would be just getting, again, an all-hazard type one, which is an ABC extinguisher. They are generally red, not the white kind. They're red, they're about 5-10 pounds or so, and they should be mounted in an area that you can easily access them, right? Not underneath the kitchen sink, not in a closet underneath clothes. They're meant for you to get out of the building in case there's fire between you and your exit, or a very small, let's say, trash can sized fire. We still want you to call 911 because there could be extension of that fire elsewhere, and we want to make sure that everything is safe. With the extinguisher maintenance, in particular the ABC, there's a chemical inside of it. There's compressed gas and the chemical. That chemical can cake over time. So approximately every 6 months or so, we recommend you take it off the wall or wherever it is, flip it upside down, give it a shake or two to disperse that powder inside, and then put it back. Otherwise, you could go to use it and only air comes out. So the chemical doesn't actually put out the fire. So again, they do also have a life cycle. 6 to 10 years is generally it. The better ones have a date stamped on the bottom of them. So just take a look at that, and it's usually a 2-digit number. It's the last 2 digits of the year. So anywhere between 6 and 10 years, and then obviously if it has a gauge, make sure it's in the green. And if not, go ahead and replace that ahead of time.
Very good.
Are they obvious to use? Are they very easy?
Yeah, so the acronym that we would say would be PASS, which is P-A-S-S, pull the pin, aim at the base of the fire, squeeze the handle, and then sweep back and forth.
Okay.
They'll last about 15 to 20 seconds or so of actual material to come out. But again, this is for a small fire or if there's fire between you and the exit. We want you to be able to get out and call 911 so that we can come and make sure that everything is out.
How do you dispose of a fire?
So you would have to take a look at a couple different variables. You could bring it to your local fire station if that's not a possibility, or if you're in the neighborhood, I believe Valhalla has a place where you can go ahead and bring hazardous materials. I say that in quotations, this being obviously a good material that we need, but you can go ahead and dispose of them that way.
So I just want to emphasize one thing: aim first before you pull the trigger. So many people like start spraying before they aim, and then the fire extinguisher is done by the time they get to the actual thing they're trying to put out. And also remember to pull the pin. Sometimes people think it's not working, but they just have forgotten to pull the pin. So, as the chief said, pass, pull the pin, aim first. So, not ready, fire, aim, right? Aim, then fire.
Can we get a demonstration site somewhere?
Yes. Yes. The school shooting, right. So as I was talking about earlier, that the TAM, Threat Assessment Management Team that we have, that is designed to do exactly what you just asked about, where we share information about individuals and we bring together every discipline. So, mental health is there, and when they become aware of, like if BOCES or a school district has alerted us to a student they have concerns with, mental health will take a look, see if they have any records. The health department will look, see if they have any records. Social services will look. And so everybody comes together to make sure that the person is evaluated, and then they do visits to the family. And they talk to the family about the potential threat assessment and try to get buy-in from the family about what needs to happen. And then if there isn't buy-in, we can discuss further actions. But there is a team that does evaluate individuals.
And certainly, if I could just jump in there, as a board member, in the schools, they work constantly to make sure that children who are expressing things that may be dangerous or harmful to themselves or others, they are constantly monitoring these children and working with the teachers and the psychologists and the administration and the families at home to do everything that they can do to ensure that that child gets the help they need before something tragic happens. So it's happening, from the top all the way down. And unfortunately, sometimes terrible things happen, but they are working constantly to make sure that everyone stays safe. So I think we have time for one more question. Any more questions? No? Okay, well, thank you very much. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Chief.